And let's continue our look right now at how cloud computing is being put to enterprise-caliber use by many corporate end users and ISVs with our case study from Treb Ryan, CEO and co-founder of Opsource, a managed hosting and now cloud provider. Treb.
Thanks, Vince. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. This is going to be an exciting session to show not just what Opsource is doing, but how one customer is using the latest in cloud to provide a really great enterprise-class solution. Real quick background on Opsource. We're 8 years old, based in Santa Clara, California. Offices all over the world. Our development's done in Dublin. We have a bunch of people out in Bangalore, London, and Herndon. We've been focused on SaaS hosting and now full-on enterprise cloud computing. So Opsource really takes the entire stack in place from the lowest cloud hosting, 4 cents a CPU hour, 2.5 cents a RAM hour, up into more traditional managed hosting solutions, large-scale databases and SAN arrays. And it even takes that into a level of what we call application operations, how we help people actually run the applications that they put into these environments to ensure compliance and performance and availability for their end customers. Though today I'm going to focus our case study on our latest product, the Opsource Cloud, and how a customer who needs an enterprise-class solution can still take advantage of the public cloud, as we said, that 4 cents an hour API-accessible, limitlessly scalable public cloud to provide a much higher level of security and performance for their customers than they'd be able to get on a traditional public cloud solution, but at a much lower cost than they would be able to get from a traditional managed hosting solution. So the Opsource Cloud provides a true public cloud environment. Anybody can go to www.opsource.net and sign up in a matter of seconds, spin up resources for 7 or 27 cents an hour, spin them back down and be done with it. It's fully enterprise class, though. It's based on VMware. We have a bunch of extra things about security we'll get into place. It provides all the kind of enterprise tools you're looking for, from Microsoft and Red Hat down to VMware and EMC. The customer we're going to use to kind of highlight this is a company called Aerohive. And Aerohive has a fascinating solution. What they've come up with this idea is putting wireless gateway access points any place a company wants them. So it's sitting in someone's home, sitting at a regional facility. You know, right now, when you have a wireless access gateway point in your office, most likely that wireless access gateway point is tied into these authentication servers that allow you to log in to your corporate network that's highly secure, that's doing things like radius and stuff to determine who can do what within the environment. And those servers communicate with each of the access points within your office. But if you go home, you're most likely just using some netgear you bought at the office, and that's a traditional home-based solution. Or if you go to small offices, coffee shops, retail locations, they're not providing that same type of authentication and security. With Aerohive, you actually get a small local access point. What's called a WLAN, a wide area LAN solution that actually then does all the same type of authentication encryption as if you were dealing with a robust environment within your office. And it does that by, instead of going back to a local controller, by going to the cloud and grabbing this information and bringing it back down and authenticating the users in each spot they're at. So what you're giving someone is a solution that's got the performance and the security of a large-scale solution, but at the price point they'd much more see with something you'd get in a retail solution. Now, the key there, though, is you are now encrypting your customers' data. So these guys, they need to have a low cost, but they need to have a high level of security and performance. And as a result, they ended up deciding to use the Opsource Cloud to provide this solution. They needed that anytime, any place someone can access it in the public network, but they needed that with a much more enterprise-class security solution with SAS 70 compliance, high-level data centers, and, of course, with the type of uptime and reliability they can sell to enterprise customers. So what they chose was the Opsource Cloud. And the Opsource Cloud does a few things that we could do that they couldn't get from other companies. The first of which is, while they had the 4 cents of CPR, they had to lock down the data that they were storing for their customers. Right now, in any other public cloud environment, when you're storing data in the cloud, every single piece of data is stored directly connected to the internet. And as a result, you're keeping things like login information and user credentials and the like directly connected to the internet. For a truly secure environment, you do not want to be directly connecting sensitive data to the internet. With the Opsource cloud, you create your own private network within the public cloud. And so the only thing that's directly connected to the internet for the AeroHive environment is the interface between the box and the web interface that grabs that information. But when the data is then stored, that data is stored off of the internet on that private network. So it transits over a private network, and it keeps it behind a firewall that makes sure that it's never accessible out to the public internet. So you get to have the advantage of being on the public internet, but the data itself is kept in a private section that can't be touched by any other customers. And we provide that through what we call the Opsource cloud network that really provides these private networks for every customer to ensure that their data is kept in a secure location and only the pieces of their architecture that has to touch the public internet does. The second thing we allowed them to do is this idea of controlling their own access. So if you're going to create a system for your customers that keeps sensitive employee data and login credentials, you need to have the capability of doing that within your system itself. You have to get compliant within your own system. Most public cloud architectures right now give you one username and password for everybody who uses it. So if any audit came back as to how you were storing your customer data, in this case their login credentials, you wouldn't know who had access because every single person in your organization would be sharing the same username and password. With the Opsource cloud environment, all of that is accessed through multiple usernames and passwords that can actually be fully audited with policy-based control. So all the way through the audit trail, AeroHive can ensure that they can show who's had access to that data and who's made any changes, and to make sure those people are background checked, they've done the appropriate things, all the types of process and procedures have been filled. So again, much more enterprise-class security at cloud-based prices. Finally, as they're storing this data in the Opsource file storage, we actually store the data natively encrypted. And so instead of having to go through a lot of extra hoops, when you put into the Opsource cloud files and actually store that Opsource, it's 256 AEK encrypted with no other work by AeroHive. So they're ensured even if someone got access to those disks, it'd be completely encrypted and they wouldn't be able to get access to that data. Opsource is providing this now for 400 plus clients, and actually this hasn't even kept, because cloud goes so quickly, I think we're at close to 550 now, who either doing focus just on the application, the SaaS world, companies like Adobe and Mattel, or just cloud, who are using only cloud and trying to build their business on the latest technologies, all the way from small companies like AeroHive or new companies to NTT Communications, or people who are using both, a combination of managed hosting and cloud hosting, and you see companies SAP and CA to Gomez and Digipraz. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Vance.
Wow, Trav, what a terrific overview of not just your case study, but of the Opsource go-to-market approach. Just one quick question before you go. It seems that Opsource really is taking some of the traditional thoughts about public-private cloud and putting them a little bit on their head. For instance, the thing that occurred to me when you were speaking is rather than start with a low-cost public cloud and then add in security, encryption, and management that can either be expensive or maybe not even possible, Opsource lets me start with the features I want from a private network and then provision them through or to the cloud.
That's exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, the public cloud is where this data is moving to. And I love the AeroHive example because they have no option, right? They're, by definition, deploying systems out across the world where people could be accessing from multiple locations. They have to use the public cloud. So the question isn't, can I go to a private cloud? The question is, we need to take the public cloud and ensure that it has all the security, all the compliance, and all the performance you could get in your own environment, but still using the public cloud architecture for scale, for spread, and of course for cost.
And so the takeaway here for your drill down session later today is that folks that are in other businesses that might not be hotspot Wi-Fi business, you're going to give us some other examples of how your architecture can help those companies.
Absolutely. We have a big focus in SaaS companies. We're doing a lot with telecoms and network companies like AeroHive. But we have enterprise customers who are just using this for internal IT now.
Excellent. Trev Ryan, CEO of Opsource. Looking forward to your session later today. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me, Vance.